everyone, we're back at the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. Thanks for joining us. I've got a great guest here in studio. You know him as Rudy Cheeks, Bruce McCrae, and Jorge.
Oh yeah. I got a million names, Kate. You know that, yeah.
You have a million names, but as I said, the arbiter of cool, of knowing of the music scene here in Rhode Island. As we're watching BRU, it's their last day of existence now. Right. I know you're an HJY guy.
I'm an alumnus of HJY, yeah.
You're an alum of it, but you've always been in the forefront of the music scene here.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the role that BRU played in the music scene here in Rhode Island.
Well, especially when they became an FM station, which I believe was the late 60s, it really changed everything because they were able to play like long cuts and alternative cuts that the other stations, the AM stations, shied away from. They were just playing what they called the top 40 at the time. So what happened was it changed the face of radio, and later radio was based on this same kind of FM format, or a lot of it was anyway. It loosened up, the standard AM music radio.
Really shook it up, and did a lot of local music acts get their starts on BRU?
Some did, but not really, because they didn't. For the most part, they did not play local stuff. Now, I would say my band, the Young Adults, was one. This is back in the mid '70s. Were one of the first bands to actually get played on BRU. They played our single Complex World, and I remember one time we did a show live from the studios of Normandy Sound, and they broadcast that live. And then I think the Schemers also did Mark Cutler's band, the Schemers also did, were that helped them out. Now the other thing that BRU did was they were the creators of and the hosts of the Rock Hunt. And the Rock Hunt became a big thing for local bands. So I mean, they were definitely a positive thing for local bands, Kate, but I wouldn't say that they really broke any or anything like that.
Well, you got some airplay with Young Adults, and you mentioned some other musical acts as well.
Oh yeah.
Were you surprised when you heard the news that they were being sold to K-Rock?
Well, I didn't know much about K-Rock, but I must say that I was not totally surprised, only because this is what's happening with radio now, and a lot of other things. I was in the alternative media. I wrote for the, actually I'm still writing for Motif, Chip and I, Philippe and Jorge, but for many years I wrote for the Providence Phoenix, and if you notice, most of the alternative press is gone. And we, Motif still exists, which is good, and I'm very happy about that. But it's on the way out. Everything has become internet-based, and this is true about radio too, and that's why it's not a surprising thing to me. Because what I think is going on with radio is the old brick-and-mortar radio stations are being bought by niche operations. So in other words, it's like this is Christian rock, right? And that's a niche operation.
That's very niche.
Yeah. So
do you think folks will, BRU's talking that, they're not going away. They're going off the 95.5 FM frequency. They're going online.
They're going online. That's what I'm saying. Like I said, and internet stuff. I think. In fact, I have predicted this some time ago, a few years ago, that I said television is soon going to be basically internet. Now, I don't know how all this works financially or any other way, because it really is something that they haven't worked out the finances yet. But younger people who are the basic consumers of alternative rock music and alternative journalism and stuff like that are all internet oriented, and so that's one of the reasons why this is happening too. So.
And we're kind of in the midst of the change right now.
Right.
And maybe we'll see it kind of looking back, but while it's happening, it's kind of hard to see. But we've talked with folks who have said that they think that Brown's ahead of the curve going in this direction. Training the students, because it's a student radio station now. Right. It hasn't always been. But talk with us. You've been in the music scene. What's the state of the music scene in Rhode Island right now?
Same type thing. It used to be the music companies, the people that own the album, the record companies and everything were kind of in control. But right now, and the music they used to sell CDs. There aren't any CDs. And before that, it was LPs. And now, at this point, it's just basically downloaded. So also, once again, internet-based.
Do you think that changes? I've asked musicians this question. Again, I'm a reporter. I'm not in the music industry. Bands and acts used to create albums because that's what you said was, that was what was required. Now are they focusing on songs, or is there still that artistic I want to create a kind of a book of work for this period of time in my life, or does it really vary on the artist or the band?
I think it varies on the artist and the band, really, what they're trying to do. And I mean, the guy to talk about is my old friend David Byrne, because David actually wrote a book, I think, about a lot of this. And David is much more in touch with it than I am, because he's still working in that business. I kind of have not, I mean, I stayed in the clubs and I stayed local, and I mean, I did play a lot in New York, and many years ago, all over the east, northeast, but that was years ago. So.
Speaking of books, when are you going to write a book?
Well, I don't know. I've got snippets of all sorts of things written. People, keep asking me to write a memoir. I don't think I'd like to do that, but I would like to write something a very personal and specific, history of the Providence underground arts and music. Because I've been a part of that for most of my life, and I find that interesting. And my life to me is not that interesting, but the whole thing that I came out of and that I was involved in my whole life, that is interesting to me.
You mentioned David Byrne. We all know the Talking Heads, but who are the when you talk, if you were to write a book, I mean, who are the folks that maybe sort of the mainstream population might not know about, that would be focal points of a book if you were to write about the underground scene?
Let me see. Well, I think they do know. I think about. And not just the ones who were successful, then you mean. I mean, wildly successful. I think there was a band that was moderately successful called Rubber Rodeo that I'd like to write about. I thought they were fantastic. And that was a long time ago. There was, back in the, let me see, when was that? That was like the early 80s.
Rubber Rodeo.
I liked Rubber Rodeo a lot, and they're still friends. So I would, I'd like to include them in any kind of remembrance of that. And then some bands I really didn't know that well, like Lightning Bolt, and who were like a little bit younger than I was, and so I didn't really. But I thought they had a real impact, and there were a number of other stuff too. I'd really like to learn more about the local hip hop scene. I mean, I've heard like of Sage Francis and some of these other people, but I don't really know those guys.
So Ava Gaudet, Go Local's entertainment editor, had a great interview this week. I'll hook you up with her if you haven't checked it out. It was about someone putting together that documentary on the kind of origins of hip-hop in Providence, kind of who are those people that were involved with it.
Fantastic, yeah.
Where are your favorite places for live music?
Well, I like Nickety's because it's very much in fact, we've been there together,
yes,
haven't we?
have.
Yeah.
You were on the harmonica.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah, I would play. Yeah, I was playing with, your brother was playing drums, right?
My brother was playing at Nickety's, yes.
Yeah. So I like that place only because it's a very comfortable, and it's, a lot of my friends go there, and there's also a lot of younger folks, but there's some of us old geezers are there too. And I play with my friends. The reason why I like going there was because I could sit in with all these bands that I was very friendly with.
Yep.
Mark Cutler's band, Men of Great Courage, and Biscuit City is a favorite band of mine. Paula Claire Seminaro is fabulous. And a bunch of and other folks too, all sorts of other bands too. So
we'll probably see you there.
I like that. Oh, I like the Parlor too. I like the folks who run the Parlor. They're really nice people. And I like these are small clubs, and the Met, of course, because that bigger acts can come into the Met, and I've played a lot at the Met, and that's owned by Rich Lupo, who's a very old friend. So
Now, we're talking about the shakeups of radio, and as we said, from the FM dial to the internet, but, nothing will replace live music.
No, I don't think so. Well, I don't know. There was that period where there was a lot of just DJs and stuff, and it was very popular, more popular than live music, but to me, there is no substitute for live music.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's interesting, folks see our studio here and you just see the backdrop, but we've had live music here, and it's really great. The acoustics are fantastic, and we're going to be making up some changes, so it's fun.
Oh, wow.
With what we're doing here is we do interviews, we do music. My next one's a Skype. But I was so glad I was able to get you in because, again, a lot of folks are talking about, BRU, to come tomorrow, you're going to go to 95.5, get probably kind of some, some Jesus rock.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about either. I don't know. I keep thinking it sounds like country music, but it's all about, Jesus, or something. I don't know.
We'll see. If you're going to turn, it's not going to be the BRU that you've heard. But as BRU has pointed out, they're making a huge shift to internet radio. We've talked with some folks here with some more insights as to that as well. But as someone who's been so involved with the music scene, writes Felipe and Jorge, how do you get your inspirations? I always like to talk to fellow writers about, how does each column serve?
Well, I'll tell you, we have a wide assortment of very old, influences. One that both Chip and I have is Alexander Coburn, who wrote for the Village Voice, which just went under the Village Voice many years ago. Another one is Gore Vidal and S.J. Perlman. Chip also is very much an Anglophile, and he was into Private Eye. And we both used to subscribe to Spy, which used to be a great magazine. So, we've read a lot of the humor stuff and all that, and, I just had a big influence on us. And also, news stuff, and that took a snarky point of view, and that became our thing. And then we decided to take on gay personas, and at that time, there was not an LGBT presence in fact, this was before, there were any LGBT publications around, so they didn't have a presence whatsoever, that whole community. And we became by default, a voice for the community, which we were very proud of that we were accepted, because we're both hetero,
Last question before I go to my next guest, and I don't know if you can share this story, but sometimes you write some controversial things and feel like has anyone, I'm sure they have, but any stories you can share of someone coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Bruce."
Yeah. They usually think I'm Rudy.
I got a bone to pick with you.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I don't go to the State House, because there are certain people who are in the General Assembly who are like,
But has anyone done that?
No. Joe Trillo is on my case, people like that. I say I know what they're going to say and everything like that. It's not going to change what I'm doing, and it's not going to change what they're doing, so who cares?
But it is a unique space in Rhode Island to, again, have that humor column, really kind of acerbic, kind of pointed at times, but again, it's been a stalwart here in the state. So between the music, between the writing, Bruce McCrae, I'm so happy you were able to join us in the studio today.
Thank you. Okay, good
we'll
to
see you soon, okay?
All right, okay.
We'll see what K-Rock ends up being, and we'll see
I was just talking to my old pal Bob Whitcomb out there. He says, let's do something together. I said, sure, why not?
That's always never a dull moment here in the Gullah.